actually need this iPad because it's full of the notes I took when I watched the Nintendo Direct Mini earlier today. Alright, so I think I'm gonna start the start. Well, I already started streaming, but you know what I meant. So anyway, hey everybody, Blood Moon Bobby here, back again. Think, aside from when the couple times I've had to restart streams, I think this is the first time I've done two like legit streams in a day. It's just that for today, it just seemed I just felt in the mood to stream both of my discussions. For the Owl House, it was because there were three episodes I wanted to talk about, and I think that would have been really clunky if I tried to film it as a regular pre-recorded video. And I really enjoyed discussing with the King of Demons about that episode in the live chat. And now I am back here to talk about the Nintendo Direct Mini that happened. I'll be honest, I'm not sure if Nintendo put out a post saying, hey, Nintendo Direct Mini coming, but I honestly didn't hear about it until this morning. I literally woke up and Nintendo's Twitter was like, Nintendo Direct Mini, and I thought, oh, is it another one of those fake Twitter accounts? I was like, no, it was a legitimate Nintendo Direct after all this time. I know lots of people were waiting for one, complaints of a direct drought and all that. And it's really exciting that Nintendo has finally decided to do one. I kind of suspect one of the reasons why it took so long to get a new Nintendo Direct of any sort is due to the coronavirus pandemic. In fact, if you haven't seen the Direct Mini yet, it actually starts off, when you get past the ESRB rating, it starts off with a quote saying, "Please note, due to COVID-19, release dates and other information presented in this video are subject to change. For potential updates, please check the official Nintendo website and social media channels as well as those of other publishers. Our hearts go out to all those impacted by COVID-19 during this challenging time." So I think part of it is because right now getting like solid release dates for many games, especially when we get past Doom Eternal and Animal Crossing New Horizons, it's going to be kind of sketchy because because it's kind of unclear if a lot of these games are going to come out. I suspect in the case of the video game industry, part of it will be the interesting thing is that with movies, because many of them were set to be coming to theaters, that's why I think many of them were going to be a bit delayed. With games, it's kind of interesting, especially ones that are ready to go, because even if, okay, let's say people can't go to GameStop to pick it up, they could always download it from the Nintendo eShop. But Nintendo does make clear their things, especially at this point in time, are definitely, well, I don't know about definitely, but when they say subject to change, it seems even more likely of a possibility than usual. So I think that's part of why it took so long to get a Nintendo Direct. I will consider myself really patient. I'm usually, especially since I started learning more about the crunch culture of the video game industry, I started to become a lot more like sympathetic to developers and think, hey, and like as I get older, I started to become more patient for video game and movie releases. Where I'm like, hey, take as much time as you need. I want to see a really good product, and if it takes, and because like I've heard in the movie industry, some movies spend years in development hell, and then they finally get released. Take as much time as you need. I'd rather see a game he made with the proper time made rather than see a rushed game, and even worse, a rushed game that was where the staff was put under or a ungodly amount of stress and labor to create it. So, but anyway, let's get on to the news. So I will say, to start off this discussion, I'm gonna actually raise the volume a bit. It's weird. In the Owl House discussion, I was quite loud, and now I think I'm a bit too quiet. I will say that I'm not going to be discussing every single solitary game that was announced, because I think that would kind of defeat the purpose of this discussion. And also, there are just some games that didn't really catch my attention, and others that I personally don't know if I could really talk about comfortably. Some of them games I'll talk about, may not necessarily ones where I'm really waiting for. It's going to be ones that I have a feeling that some of my audience would like to know, and I'll talk a bit about those in more details. But for those games, I would highly suggest checking out the Nintendo Direct itself. And in either case, I would recommend checking out both the Direct and this discussion that you're about to hear. So if you have any thoughts on any of the announcements made, don't be afraid to let me know in the chat. Even if it's something that I'm not going to be discussing, you can let me know if this is a game that you're interested in or that you're really skeptical of. So I'm really open to hearing anything. I really enjoy chatting with you all whenever I do these live discussions. So anyway, the best way I could sum up what were the things that really got me pumped up from this Nintendo Direct, I would say the third-party announcements, as well as the updates coming out to the Nintendo games that are already released. So during this Direct, we heard about news. I might as well start off because we did an Animal Crossing stream fairly recently. We got more information about the Animal Crossing New Horizons launch update, which honestly really confused the heck out of me, because I thought the way Nintendo worded it, it sounded like the Easter Bunny character Zipper was going to be there. When you downloaded the update, he would be there on launch day, but it isn't. So it seems like, and feel free to correct me in the chat if this is not quite right, that what's going on is that they put out this update so that I guess things will be ready for when they're ready to put Zipper in the game this coming April, which I'm very interested in. I actually heard that Zipper was in prior Animal Crossing games, apparently. I didn't see the character. This is the first time I'm honestly getting to celebrate Easter in Animal Crossing, so I'm very interested in seeing that, because a lot of the holiday events in Animal Crossing are quite fun. I mainly played the holiday events like when I was a kid in games like the GameCube Animal Crossing and Animal Crossing Wild World. Like I can think of Jingle running around in Animal Crossing GameCube. I talked about in my New Horizons discussion with Patrick, one of my more provocative Animal Crossing memories, aside from Rossetti, was that turkey character Franklin, because the thing about Franklin is in the GameCube game, he would like hide under trees and you were supposed to get a fork and knife, I think. And when you talk to Franklin, he would just like, I don't know, like he would just like scream, like his dialogue would have weird punctuation and be in like big text. I'm like, hey, calm down. So it's really kind of funny. My friend Patrick suggested maybe he's hiding because he's a turkey and he doesn't want to get eaten on Thanksgiving, so maybe that's why. I could also think, even like just this past Christmas, I think of how in both not New Horizons, New Leaf and Wild World, I was making these snow characters like the snowman in both games. And in New Leaf, if you create a snowman, you could make this kind of interesting bingo game. So I have fun with many of the holiday events in the Animal Crossing games, and I'm interested to see what Easter is like. They also suggested they're going to be doing something for Earth Day, and they actually showed a picture of the character Leaf, the guy who sells the planting products in a couple of the other Animal Crossing games. So it sounds like I wouldn't be surprised if he's actually coming to the game. It's kind of interesting to me because Leaf, in the prior games that he was in, he was the person who would sell you like planting products. Like when I look back on New Leaf, he was the person who sold like saplings and fertilizer. I think they gave him a kind of a Bob Ross vibe from the way he talked, because I remember, I think I would like go in to buy fertilizer at TNT Emporium in New Leaf, and he would say, "Oh, you're looking at a happy little fertilizer," and I'm like, "Did somebody somebody at the Nintendo Treehouse really like Bob Ross or something?" I mean, I like Bob Ross myself. It's just that it seems like such a on-the-nose reference, like using the words happy little. You know, like how Bob Ross likes, when he paints trees, he says, "I want to put happy little trees." So, I don't know. And I think we kind of joked about what if they did Animal Crossing ASMR, so maybe the closest would be the Leaf character. Just seems like, I mean, I don't think so. I mean, I'm sure, I don't know I mean, they didn't really talk about, if Leaf is coming for sure. I'm sure it's going to do like some sort of planting celebration or something like that. We'll have to get more information when that's available. So, yeah, so that's the update they gave on New Horizons. Hi, Alan. How are you? What did you think of the Nintendo Direct Mini? If I can show you where I am in New Horizons, I'm not like the furthest along, but I don't I'm trying to show my best. I actually just started building fences and started assembling furniture for homes in New Horizons. And I actually got to play with my friend's character, my former multimedia editor. She also has the game. I visited her island. She seems even further along than I am. I kind of talked about this in my Owl House stream. I mentioned that she has like paved roads and there were multiple houses spread across her island. So, but it was fun. So I'm definitely enjoying New Horizons. On the note of building houses, though, I will say it's one of the more strenuous tasks in New Horizons, because you actually have to, you can't just say, "Oh, I'm going to put this house here." You actually also have to gather some of the furniture for the house. So things like tables and barrels. I know one of the houses I had to put a stereo, so I had to spend a lot of time gathering parts. So what I recommend to people who just got New Horizons, and start collecting things like the wood, the hardwood, and the softwood by like shaking trees or, hitting it a couple times with your axe. So be careful of wasps, but I highly suggest starting to assemble parts if you're going to get into building homes in New Horizons, because it's not as simple as just picking out parts of land and saying, "Oh, I want my resident to live here." So Alan says you're doing good. You're doing good. So yeah. Once again, what did you think of the announcements in the Nintendo Direct Mini, Alan? So another thing I wanted to talk about, something I really, really like, and I'm so glad that Nintendo is letting this happen, is that there were even more third-party games announced during this Nintendo Direct Mini. There's actually quite I need a few, even beyond the ones that I'll mention in this video. There's honestly so many to name. Some of them are just like, yeah, whatever. One of them was like a collection of board games. There's so many to talk about. The stream will probably get really boring if I listed every single solitary one. But I like the ones they showed. Like 2K came out and said, "Hey, we really like the Switch." I know that 2K has brought like the NBA 2K games, which I'm not crazy about because I've heard of the things they're doing with like microtransactions, but they are bringing in the collections of BioShock and Borderlands games as well as XCOM 2 to the Nintendo Switch, the XCOM 2 collection, and all three games are coming out May 29th. And I'm it's not that when I say I'm kind of scratching my head as far as if I'm gonna purchase it or not, it's not because I'm not interested in the games at all. Part of it is because my sister already has I think she told me she has like the BioShock collection on PC. I remember watching her play BioShock Infinite once. I even had her play the game to test out my upgraded PC. So kind of on the fence. BioShock and Borderlands do look interesting. It would be nice. I mentioned before, one of the reasons why I really support third-party games coming to Switch. One is because I think it would really help broaden the appeal of the Nintendo Switch. As much as I know Nintendo's first-party games sell really, 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 really well, and that's great, and that's what sells the system, I think what could also make the Switch more appealing to people is if they get more third-party support. Especially games that you could get on like the PS4, Xbox One, and the PC, for instance. So that's why I was really happy to see Doom 2016 and Mortal Kombat 11 come to the Switch. The ports themselves, the games themselves actually play pretty decently. Mortal Kombat 11 graphically doesn't look that great. I think the developers could have done an even better job, especially with how well Doom 2016 and Wolfenstein 2: The New Colossus fare up. Those two ports I really like. I'm excited to see Doom Eternal come to the Switch. I really hope that, because I've seen it's kind of become a meme that Isabel and the Doomslayer are friends, so I want to see what happens. Is that still going to be a thing when Doom Eternal comes to the Switch? And by the way, there was no Doom Eternal announcements in this Nintendo Direct Mini, unfortunately, so we're probably going to have to wait later on to hear about announcements for Doom Eternal for the Switch. I heard the developers say that the Switch version of Doom Eternal is playing pretty well, so yeah, I hope it does. And judging by Doom 2016 and all the really crazy shit in Wolfenstein 2: The New Colossus, I think Doom Eternal has a good chance. I was surprised to see it because Wolfenstein 2: The New Colossus, especially when things get really insane, there's a lot of shit going on. Like, I remember there's this one scene in Wolfenstein 2: The New Colossus where the character BJ Blazkowicz goes on top of a train, and there's like all this crazy lighting. Like, I think it was like the inside of a cave or a subway or something, and you see just like these lights moving around, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, the Switch can handle that. And more recently, there was a part of the game where I had to like destroy this crane, and the crane like took a big piece of the building out, and you see all this wood, all these particle effects, and I'm like, geez, the Switch handles it actually pretty well. I mean, in terms of detailed textures, not so much, but as far as a relatively smooth game, I would say the Switch has handled these games really well, and I'm excited to see that 2K is bringing these games over to Switch. I was a little concerned because I know that Doom, for instance, I don't think, at least according to VG Charts, hasn't even cracked 1 million units on Switch. But it does show, with the continued support, it does tell me that third parties you say, hey, our games at least have a chance on the Switch. So it's really exciting. I think the Doom developers, they pointed out they hear comments of Doom Eternal, and they're like, oh, I can't wait for it to come out on Switch and things like that. But regardless, I'm still really happy for not just myself, but also especially for Switch players that really like the third-party support. I know that on Twitter, whenever I post my gameplay of Doom 2016, I know I'm very amateurish at that game, but I do know people seem to like the gameplay, so I definitely wish the best for all these continued third-party games coming to Switch. I was a little concerned it was going to be like the Wii U all over again, where third-party support was strong in the beginning, and then it started to sort of dwindle down. But so far, it seems to be going pretty decently. In terms of other third-party games, they showed in the Direct Mini, they showed Star Wars Jedi Knight, Jedi Academy, Star Wars Episode 1 Racer, the Panzer Dragoon remake. I was really concerned about that remake because I haven't heard about it in a while. I need to stop creaking in my chair and raise the volume. But the Direct said that the game is out. They said March 26th. Does that mean I can go download it now? Let me see. But it is interesting because I remember I often spend my free time learning about video game history, and when I was learning about the Sega Saturn, one of the games that really caught my eye was the Panzer Dragoon remake. And yeah, you could actually, if you go to the Nintendo Switch eShop, I don't know how well it's going to come up in the video, you can get the Panzer Dragoon remake for $25. So yeah, that's really great. And other games they showed, Trials of Mana, Burnout Paradise Remastered. I'd have to check that out. Saints Row 4, was it Saints Row 4? Let me check. I know that they put a subtitle here. Let me just double check to see if it was like the legit Saints Row 4. I think it is. Nope. I don't want the audio of the Direct to get in my microphone. No, there was Elder Scrolls Blades. So, once again, I'll get back to more of the announcements that were made in the Direct Mini in a second here. Yep, as I said, Burnout Paradise Remastered. Yeah, it is. Saints Row 4 is coming to Switch. I'm a little concerned about that particular game because I heard when Saints Row the Third was released on Switch, graphically the game didn't perform that well. I think I checked out gameplay from that a while back, and yeah, it didn't look nearly as good as when I streamed Saints Row the Third on PlayStation Now. So that one, it's not that I'm skeptical of. Like, I'm glad it's coming. I just hope that it plays really well. So I'm very curious to hear about that one. Okay, so talk quite a bit about the third-party support. Still really happy. The Direct said that the Smash Brothers Ultimate Fighter and Wave 6 of the paid DLC will be somebody from ARMS, and that will be coming in June. They didn't specifically say who the character is going to be. Very curious to hear myself. I was kind of wondering, is it going to be one of the I forgot the name, but one of the first characters you can choose from ARMS. I was kind of suspecting that, but yeah, that's something but yeah, so some good news for Smash fans. Nintendo also announced that there will be a free trial of the entire ARMS game coming for Nintendo Switch Online members from March 26th to April 6th. So it kind of reminds me of when Nintendo temporarily allowed Mario Tennis Open. Like, people could actually play the game itself for a very short time. And I remember playing that, and it was pretty good. I'm not really a Mario Tennis fan, but I remember it was pretty fun. So and ARMS that, I have the copy of the game myself. It's a pretty fun game. I didn't really get into playing it as much, but from the times I did play it, it was fun. It's that sort of boxing game with the characters with the really stretchable arms. And I know my sister really got into it, except for the one time that she game raged over it. I have a feeling ARMS, it's the kind of game I would have more fun if I played with friends. You can play by yourself and play against the computer, but I think it's the kind of game that's much more fun with friends. So, but if you want to try out ARMS for yourself, I definitely would recommend giving it a shot. And in the direct, they also talked about Bravely Default 2. There is a free demo that you can go check out now. I just checked the Nintendo eShop itself, and you can, in fact, go and download it. The game itself is coming out sometime in 2020. There's also a free Ring Fit Adventure update that will offer this rhythm mode that brings together music from Mario Odyssey, Splatoon 2, and Zelda Breath of the Wild. Your Ring character can now have a female voice and multiple language options. And there will also be a new jogging option in the custom and quick play modes. And that update is available 2 days. So for Ring Fit Adventure fans, if you want to go check that out. So, another thing they announced, Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition coming out on May 29th. Definitive, say that 5 times fast. And Pokemon Sword and Shield, the expansion pass, they talked quite a bit more about the Isle of Armor expansion pass, saying that there will be a dojo on the Isle of Armor for mastering Pokemon skills, and you will be able to get the legendary Pokemon Fu, and you can make this Pokemon evolve. And you'll be going into one of 2 towers, either the Tower of Darkness and the Tower of Waters. So that seems interesting. Kind of curious if my sister's going to get the expansion pass. She got the expansion pass for Breath of the Wild. I know my sis is at least really close to finishing up Pokemon Sword, so I'm kind of curious to see if she's going to get the expansion pass for this one. We usually don't engage in things like DLC or expansion passes, but every once in a while we like to dip our feet into those kind of things. So yeah, so Nintendo said the Isle of Armor expansion will come out at the end of June, and this other one called the Crown Tundra will be out this fall. And they also promise there will be new league card backgrounds, effects and frames, new outfit items and hairstyles, and there will also be new people to meet. So yeah, so you're a Pokemon fan, and I hope this news serves you well. So Alan, would you say, I'm liking the future for Nintendo in 2020? And yeah, I would say this Direct has several promising games. I would say, from my personal perspective, more so on the third-party side as of right now. I would be willing to give these games a chance. I would say, to me, games like Panzer Dragoon and BioShock seem interesting to me. I'm kind of wondering if I could have the same kind of experience with BioShock. It's something like when I first experienced Doom 2016 and Mortal Kombat 11, where I never really played games like those before, and then I really got myself into them. So yeah, I'm very curious myself. Again, kind of skeptical because my sis has said that she's gotten the BioShock collection for PC on Steam, so I don't know. We'll have to wait and see on that. But if I got to play it on Switch, the nice thing about it is it would be the platform I would play it the most often on, because the Switch is a system that you could take with you on the go as well as play on the big TV. Yeah, and I know there's even more Nintendo games down the pipeline, like Bayonetta 3 and Metroid Prime 4. I'm kind of doubtful that those games are in particular are gonna get released in 2020, with things like the pandemic going around, and also since these games have been in development for a really long time. So until we see like even more, especially like trailers that show even more gameplay of those two titles. Excuse me. I know Nintendo has said they basically had to restart development of Metroid Prime 4 like a while ago. Oh, so but Metroid Prime 4, it does seem like a game that I would give a shot. I briefly played Metroid Prime through Metroid Prime Trilogy. I downloaded it on my Wii U, and I liked the game, but I didn't really like how it was one of those, when they brought it over to Wii, it was very reliant on like moving the Wii remote around it for the camera. So I would like to see Nintendo bring Metroid Prime Trilogy over to Switch as a kind of teaser for Metroid Prime 4. Especially since it's been so long since Metroid Prime 3, I think it would be a really great way for people to get into Metroid. I mean, I know there was a Metroid game for 3DS, but I think an even more direct way for people to get into Metroid Prime 4 would be through the Metroid Prime trilogy. So, yeah. So yeah, I mean, to be really honest, the upcoming games for the Switch I'm most excited for weren't really even discussed in this Nintendo Direct. Although part of it is because they're like coming out, like they're more either long-term projects, or we're still waiting on the developers to give a more firm release date for things like Doom Eternal. Yeah, I'm not gonna lean back as much. I think I'm leaning back just so I can stay in frame. But I think I seem okay. So anyone else, what did you personally think of the Nintendo Direct Mini? Let me know your thoughts in the live chat. I really enjoy talking to you guys when I do these discussions. Like I said, I wanted to do this one as a live discussion because there's so many news out there, and also and I really wanted to do this one on the day of the direct, like basically following it. I couldn't do it earlier, like at noon, because I had the Owl House stream set up since last night, and the Nintendo Direct, like I literally just watched it this morning. So yeah, so that's why I'm doing the stream right now. But I'm very curious to hear all your thoughts on the Nintendo Direct Mini, especially since this is the first time there was a explicit Nintendo Direct. I mean, when I mean, yes, there were things like the Animal Crossing Direct, but in terms of like a straight up Nintendo Direct with announcements from many other games, let me know your thoughts in the live chat. What did you think of this? Uh, Say, Alan, I'm starting to think how the Super Nintendo and NES takes 2 months to get new games. Are you talking about how on Nintendo Switch Online you can play a select amount of the Super Nintendo and NES games, Alan? I haven't really been following it that closely. I know that it seems like because the NES and Super Nintendo games, they used to come out like every month, and now it's like it seems like it takes even longer. So I'm not really sure what's going on that, and I still really want them to release these more, like I want to see them bring games like Earthbound and Earthbound Beginnings to Nintendo Switch Online. And so I don't know if that's like a developer thing. I don't want to play a armchair developer right now. I know that that Earthbound, I can't call it the original Earthbound because Earthbound is really Mother 2, but Earthbound on the Super Nintendo I think costed a bit more on the Wii U's Virtual Console, so maybe there's like development things, because I know that Earthbound, there was a lot of trouble in its development, like when it was first being produced. So maybe there's something that's making it take a while for it to come to Switch. Although I do hope someday. I have been playing Earthbound a lot, especially on my new 3DS XL, but since I spend most of my time on the Switch now, hold on a second, I have a dry throat. Whoops, hit one of my lights there. Yeah, needed to clear my throat, excuse moi. But I do hope that Earthbound Beginnings, especially since Earthbound Beginnings and Earthbound were released on the Wii U, I'd like to see both of those games come to Switch at some point, especially since the Switch, as much as I don't have a problem with the Wii U, I like the Wii U just fine, especially given that the Switch it has become a far more successful console, and Earthbound has become even more of like a cult classic where it didn't really catch on, especially like in the States when it first came out, but now it's kind of like with Blade Runner, where it's like wasn't too popular when it first came out, but then it just kind of exploded, and now people are like, oh my god, this is so awesome. So yeah, I hope to see those two games come to Switch. I know I've talked about Mother 3 quite a bit, but as I always say, my mind says Nintendo, there's slim to none chance that Nintendo will bring Mother 3 worldwide, but my heart says, please, the story of Mother 3 seems so compelling, and it makes Lucas, as I've said, because as a kid I used to think, who the heck are Ness and Lucas, these weird kids? And then it's like you learn about the games they come from and their stories, especially Lucas. It's like, oh my god, Lucas has gone through a lot of stuff. So, what, Alan, would you say? I personally think I like how the games I know from other platforms are coming to Switch. And yeah, I definitely really like that myself. I mean, I really think that that's what makes the Switch an even more appealing console. On top of, I mean, yes, Nintendo's games. Let me actually see if I could move the camera a bit because the sun is really starting to pour in here. Sorry about that, but this is about as good a time as I could stream right now. Now, I mean, yes, for Nintendo, their first-party games do really well, but I think having the third-party games broaden the Switch's appeal a lot. And also, I personally want to play a lot of these third-party games, and even my sister, like I mentioned many, many times, that she has beaten the Dark Souls remastered port for Switch. Hey Nick, how you doing? What did you think of the Nintendo Direct from today? Or the Nintendo Direct Mini, I should say. Move over here. I don't want the sun to get me quite as much. Yeah, kind of hoping against hope the sun will set a little. I mean, sunlight isn't exactly the most ideal lighting source, but when you're in basically the only room of your house where it's remotely good for filming, I mean, this is about as good as it can get for right now. Maybe one of these days I can buy one of those neutral density sheets for like my windows so that the glare isn't quite as distracting. What'd you say, Nick? Bruh, right? The Super Nintendo and NES games are released on a fairly infrequent basis. And yeah, I really wish they weren't. So I don't know if it's just like there's some kind of development problem or licensing issue that Nintendo is having trouble with. But I would like to see like Super Nintendo and NES games come to the Switch on a much more consistent basis. I mean, much like how, like in the days of the Wii Shop channel, the Wii Shop, had a regular, like, a much more consistent amount of retro games from even more consoles, mind you. Like the Wii Shop channel sold games from systems like the NES, Super Nintendo, Nintendo 64, Sega Master System, Sega Genesis, TurboGrafx 16, Commodore 64, Neo Geo, and arcade games. So I honestly really don't know what's up. I know when it comes to like Nintendo Switch Online, because I know that's probably one of the most criticized parts of the Switch, I would say one of the really big criticisms is the amount of retro games, especially since it's a much more limited lineup compared to Nintendo's past systems. I mean, even though Wii U, it had virtual console games from like even the original Wii, Nintendo DS, and the Game Boy Advance. So Nick said, I've watched half of the direct, to be honest, up to the part about Smash Ultimate. So the part where they talked about how an ARMS character is going to be one of the next DLC characters for Smash Ultimate. I'll be honest, when they announced that they were going to talk about another Smash character, I was kind of like, oh god, because I know when they announced that Fire Emblem character was coming to who Smash, I remember that caused a lot of controversy because I know a lot of people are like, who is this character? And things like that. So, but I could definitely see an ARMS character being in Smash, especially like, could you imagine in like, what's the name? The character with the blue hair running around and like using his extended arm to like, punch out characters, which is ironically another Nintendo franchise. So yeah. Nick said, oh yeah, I forgot the Wii Shop channel had Sega, Neo Geo, and arcade games along with Nintendo games. And yeah, I still remember being quite surprised when Nintendo, because one of the first times I heard about the Wii Shop channel was, I remember being in Target and they had the kiosk and they had somebody saying, oh, the virtual console, like the ad showed that virtual console on Wii would have NES, Super Nintendo, and N64 games. Which, by the way, that was honestly, it was kind of like a history lesson for me because for once I got the chance to see, I mean, I remember kind of sort of playing NES games and like the GameCube Animal Crossing, but this was the first time I had access to a huge list of retro games and getting to see Nintendo games from systems that came out before I was born. I was born the same year the Nintendo 64 was released, so I didn't get the chance to play like Super Nintendo and NES games back when those games were new. So it was kind of an educational experience for me. And I still remember when I was playing Donkey Kong on my Wii, like the NES version of Donkey Kong, my mom came in and said, oh, I remember your cousin used to play that, because my cousin used to play like NES games. What'd you say, Nick? Twintel, please, or Springman from ARMS would be cool. Yeah, I think that was the character that I was talking about, Springman. And some people want Min Min from ARMS and Ultimate, though. I'm kind of curious to see. It sounds like when they say they're putting in an ARMS character, it sounds like it's only going to be like one character from ARMS. Maybe to be nice, they'll put one or two, but I can't see them doing like 3. Especially since a lot of the DLC characters, from what I hear, tend to be like one from each franchise or maybe 2 or 3 at the best. So, yeah. Wii Virtual Console was the first time I played Sega Master System games. Yeah, same for me. I remember playing Sonic the Hedgehog, the Sega Master System version on my Wii. I also played the Genesis version, which for some reason, the Genesis Sonic, for some reason, was really buggy on my Wii. It would constantly, like, it would restart every now and then and things like that. But yeah, it was still a great experience. It was, because the thing for me was, I always knew that, like, Mario and Sonic were rivals, but it didn't even occur to me that Sega had their own systems back then. I was like, Sega Genesis and Sega Master System? I've never heard of those games. Those are systems that, like, Sonic debuted on? That's really amazing. So it's really fascinating stuff. Might even be an educational experience for newer gamers, like gamers even younger than me, like for people who may have, like, their first system may have been like a Nintendo Wii or a Nintendo DS. So I think that could be a kind of interesting experience for the newer generations of gamers. I think the only Sega system that I got to see sold in stores was the Dreamcast, but I didn't even know Sega made the Dreamcast. I just remember being like a preschooler or a kindergartner going into stores and the game section and would sell like Nintendo 64, original PlayStation, and Dreamcast. I actually thought, is the Xbox the Dreamcast successor? Or so yeah, because that was me being a young kid. This was before I really followed the video game industry. I mean, I even saw those games in stores before I even got my first GameCube. So, Nick, what'd you say? The first time I played Alex Kidd Master System games was on the Wii Virtual Console. Yeah, that sounds good. How is Alex Kidd, by the way? I never got a chance to play Alex Kidd, or really that many Sega games, if I'm being really honest. Let me actually try a little something to try to get rid of some of the light. Okay, so what did you say, Nick? I was born in '99, and my first console was the PS2. Hello, well, it's understandable since the PlayStation 2 was released in 2000. So, yeah, the Alex Kidd games are fun. You should try them. Also, never owned the GameCube, but I want to own one. The GameCube was actually my very first Nintendo system. And I don't remember, I think it was my grandma that got me a GameCube or something. But I know my folks got me a GameCube because they knew that my cousins, they were into Nintendo games even before I was. Like they're older than me and they were playing games since like the Nintendo 64 days. So they got me a GameCube. And my first no, Nick, I wasn't having microphone issues. It was just that I wanted to move some stuff around. Um, but anyway, back to my GameCube story. The first three games I should say that I got for the GameCube was an NFL game that I've never played even to this day because I'm not really into football. Or like the only reason I watched last year's Super Bowl was just to see if they were gonna have a SpongeBob Sweet Victory song, and of course they didn't. But the other two games that I played a lot as a kid were Pikmin and the first Animal Crossing. It's kind of interesting that I didn't actually really get a Mario game until like really down the line. Like my first experience of Mario was Super Smash Brothers Melee, which was when you think about it was actually quite a good introduction to Nintendo because the game literally has many of Nintendo's characters, like Mario, Pikachu, and Link, Samus, Kirby. I was learning about all these different characters. I learned that they had their individual games. So in a way it was like a perfect way to really get into Nintendo. Oh, yeah. Would you say the Game Boy Advance and Wii were the first Nintendo consoles I owned? And yeah, definitely really fun systems. I don't know what it was. I remember. Let me actually get. I didn't own a Game Boy until like last year. I bought this Game Boy Advance SP off of eBay. I'm trying not to get too much glare on this. And I got it just because I kind of got interested in collecting Nintendo systems for a while. But I really wanted a Game Boy back then, not really for the games because I didn't get into the graphics. Like, I kind of treated back then, I kind of treated any pixely Super Nintendo looking games like black and white movies where it's like, it looks old. So I didn't get into Game Boy games when I was a kid. The only reason I wanted a Game Boy was because in Animal Crossing GameCube, if you use the e-reader accessory, you can access, I think it was an island on like a Game Boy if you plugged it into your GameCube. So, but I never got one. My mom said she would only buy me a Game Boy Advance if I took Taekwondo lessons. So that was the end of that. I literally had to wait for like 15-ish years to finally get money to buy a Game Boy Advance. So yeah. Let me just put this back now. And would you say, I've never played Pikmin, but it looks like a fun series. It is a fun series. Pikmin is the game where you play Captain Olimar, you control a bunch of these little aliens called Pikmin, and you go, in the first Pikmin, you go around collecting his rocket ship parts, like things like they all have weird names, so it's kind of tricky to describe things like his engine and his computers. And it's quite a challenging game because you have to avoid hazards like fire and water. There's all sorts of insect-like creatures. Like there's a ladybug-like enemy called a Bulborb that will like eat your Pikmin. There's a frog called a Wollywog that will like stomp on your Pikmin. It would just go up and crush. Like if you weren't careful, it could crush your Pikmin. And there was even like I don't remember the name of this particular enemy. There was like a mushroom-like enemy that would like go around and it would spray gas that would turn your Pikmin into like purple zombie Pikmin. This was before Pikmin 2 with the good purple Pikmin and things like that. So it's quite a fun game. I'm kind of surprised that I've never beat it to this day. I think I could. Like if me and my sister got together and played Pikmin again, we could probably beat it because you have to find 30, I think it was like 30 or 29, 28 rocket ship parts in 30 days. Yeah, it is interesting, Nick. I recommend it myself. One of the scarier enemies that I used to, even to this day, I get creeped out in the Pikmin games. One of probably the scariest memories me and my sister had of playing Pikmin 2 was there's this daddy longlegs looking monster called the beady longlegs. And what made that creature, well, the design itself wasn't like really scary. It's kind of a tough enemy to beat because it uses its it's a giant like spider that would stomp on your Pikmin. What made it scary is that, so like just imagine, so we're going to go defeat the beady longlegs in Pikmin 2. And so like, oh cool. And you see the shadow of like a spider web and it's like, oh, where is it? And then boom! It just comes out of nowhere, and me and my sister literally screamed. It just scared the shit out of us. Like even to this day, because of that childhood memory, me and my sister were struggle. We're both like kind of scared. It's like, do you want to take it on? Do you want to take it on? I remember, I don't know why we did this. We even tried to get like our dad to like do it. We didn't tell him there was like a monster. We just said, oh, just move around, because even though he doesn't play Nintendo games, he does seem interested. Like he likes it when we tell him about like the stories and characters in the games. And even to this day, Pikmin is like the one franchise my mom likes because she thinks the Pikmin themselves are cute. But yeah, that beady longlegs, man, that is one scary, at least the entrance, that is one scary beast. There's even another part in Pikmin 2 where if you get past a certain amount of days and you go to one of the different lands, I remember I was not expecting this at all. I was just like, oh, walking around, and then boom, beady longlegs is back, and I'm like, what? And it's just like, wait, how does that? Oh wait, hold on, pen. Remember BD Longlegs? I was telling my stream about how we were so scared of the BD Longlegs when we were kids. Yeah, Penny said that we had to like hide under the table. So, would you face the BD Longlegs today if you played by yourself?
Probably. I think I'd be a little less scared of it.
Yeah, well, because we were expecting a scary entrance.
Yeah.
So.
But now we know.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It's like the for me, it's almost like the equivalent of like some kids may say, "Oh, as a kid, Large Marge from Pee-wee's Big Adventure scared me." My equivalent was the beady Longlegs from Pikmin 2. um, what'd you say, Nick? I used to play Sly Cooper with my dad, and my mom likes Mario Kart games. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, never. The only time I had family play a video game with me was when my aunt from Chicago came over and she got into playing WarioWare Smooth Moves, and she especially liked this one mini game where you have to balance like a broom with your hand using the Wii remote, and if you're not careful, the broom will fall. So that was the only time I managed to get a family member to play a video game, and yeah, I think my parents, I know the two franchises they really got into, at least in terms of like a character design, were Animal Crossing and Pikmin. I know my mom knows I like Mario. She even bought like these like paper Mario Karts once, knowing I would like them. Interestingly enough, actually come to think of it, I know that there was a Zelda manga, and I've heard that my dad says he often likes to like read it when he's in the restroom. Oh, so I guess that's really interesting. Kind of curious to see what would it be like if I told him about the Earthbound games, because they're surprisingly kind of deep games. WarioWare Smooth Moves is so fun. Yeah, it is. I have really great memories of playing all the micro games in WarioWare Smooth Moves. Interestingly enough, I was never good at a WarioWare game after I played Smooth Moves. Maybe part of it is because like I think we've beaten Smooth Moves, or got super or far in that game, and I haven't really played games like WarioWare DIY as much. I know I played WarioWare DIY, the one where you actually make the micro games. My dad wanted me to play that game because that was at a time where I was considering going into computer science. And I remember just making these games that like you would never well, you would see on a Nintendo system, but you don't explicitly associate with Nintendo. Like I remember making micro games with like a football player where you have to make a touchdown just by tapping on like the screen. There was one time like I tried to make like a first person shooter game where you would just like touch the soldiers and it would kill them, and there would be like blood spilling. It's just like I just let my imagination run wild in WarioWare DIY. So yeah, it's really crazy stuff. My dad plays Mario with me sometimes. You mentioned that your mom likes Mario Kart games. Which games did you play? Which Mario games did you play with your parents, Nick? Yeah, I still remember there was one time my mom saw me playing Mario Kart 8 Deluxe on my Switch, and she saw, because in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, with the courses that like zig and zag and go in like circles and twists and turns. She was like, how can you like handle those games mentally? Don't she was kind of like basically asking me, do they make you sick and things, which they don't. And I don't know what it is. Like as a kid, my mom didn't want me playing in shooter games and racing games, and the reason she didn't want me to play racing games was because she thought I would get like headaches from like listening to the wild music in those games. So I had to like very slowly convince my mom that I can handle racing games, and that was why I was able to get into games like Excite Truck and Mario Kart DS. Mario Kart DS was like that was like the really popular game at my elementary school. Whenever we would have game days, my teacher or would let us play video games, and everybody, a lot of the kids would play like Mario Kart DS multiplayer matches. I think, interestingly enough, I think my teacher herself got so into video games at the time that a student bought a DS Lite, I think from like Taiwan, and like gave it to her as a present. So it was really amazing. And Nick said, I played New Super Mario Brothers U with my dad, and I played Mario Kart 8 with my mom. Was that Mario Kart 8 on the Wii U? Oh, I see, the Wii U version of Mario Kart 8. So yeah, that sounds a lot of fun. Yeah, I really should. Keep in mind that like practicing really anything, especially if you have the ambition to get good at it. The only way to get better is practice. Because for a long time, I was one of those people. Like if I sucked at something, I would be extremely hesitant to try again. That's why it's part of why it's taking me a while to beat Doom 2016 and Earthbound. But I know deep down the real lesson is if you want to get good at something, the only way to do it is just to practice. So yeah, Mario Kart DS was fun. Yeah, easily one of my favorite. Yeah, yes, Nick, I do have a Discord. I really want to get a Discord going. I highly recommend joining it. But I would definitely say my two favorite Nintendo DS games, like I could simply say without hesitation, were Mario Kart DS and Assassin's Creed 2 Discovery, which was it was kind of a side scroller version of Assassin's Creed. I still remember it was really a lot of fun. It was another one of those games that my dad was kind of scared because like he asked me, "Oh, what game do you want for Christmas?" My sister said Kingdom Hearts, and I said Assassin's Creed, and he was like, "Assassin's Creed? Like that sounds intense." But yeah, I tried playing Assassin's Creed 3 on the Wii, didn't really get into it as much. Assassin's Creed doesn't seem to be like my cup of tea because the main games themselves are like, from what I understand, they're like open world games that take place long ago. So it's just like, eh. I mean, I know a lot of Nintendo's games have gone into open world territory. He, uh, he, but I don't know. Nick, what'd you say? Ooh, I've never heard of that Assassin's Creed game. Yeah, there were two Assassin's Creed games that came out on the DS. They were basically the mobile games just put on a Nintendo console. And I remember playing, there was a game with Altair, an Assassin's Creed game with Altair that was also kind of like a side scroller game where you go around, defeating enemies with like your sword and stuff like that. I played that one on iPhone, but for Discovery, I wanted to get it for Nintendo DS, so I spent a lot of time playing it on. Let me get this out. I brought it out before in videos. This very Nintendo DSi. So it's definitely a lot of fun. Wish I could find that copy though. Oh, what'd you say, Alan? I remember having a Super Mario Anniversary Nintendo DSi, and that was my first ever Nintendo console. Ooh, that's awesome. The DSi was definitely a really fun Nintendo system. And I don't know why. I just really like going into like my personal stories. I mean, I go into these stories to tell you about like my experiences with those systems. But the DSi kind of came at a weird time for me. Well, not really weird. I would say my first Nintendo DS, I held on to the silver, the original Nintendo DS. I've never owned the DS Lite to this day. I've held on to that one for years, and it was starting to get beat up. The hinge was damaged and the R button was scraped. So when we heard that Nintendo was coming out with a new DS with like a camera and a music player, my sister was like, "Hey, let's get it." So We didn't get it at launch. We got it after the end of my seventh grade year in middle school. And yeah, it's a fun system. We really enjoyed using the camera. One of the underrated features I really like about the DSi and even the 3DS, I really like the music player. Like, yeah, by today's standards, it's kind of antiquated because you have to load music on using an SD card. You can't use a streaming service like Apple Music or Spotify. But I still like using the DSi and 3DS as a music player, as kind of like a backup system, like if my iPhone or iPad battery dies. And the interesting thing about the DSi was, for me, this was actually how I got into photography. I used this as a camera a lot. Went to a community garden once and took pictures. Me and my sister used to take a lot of selfies on this system. I took it to Washington, D.C. I took it on a trip to Canada where I visited both British Columbia and Alberta. I mean, right now is not a good time for traveling. I really do want to go back to Canada one of these days and I really want to revisit places in BC, maybe go back to Vancouver. I really want to go to Montreal, because I've heard that city is really beautiful. Montreal is also an Olympic city that has, it's kind of controversial Olympic stadium because it was a really expensive one, but I really like the design and I would like to visit it someday. And yeah, it was just the start of my photography, taking pictures on this DSi, and today I'm actually now using this Nikon D750 DSLR. Like, I really got into it, and I studied photography and photojournalism when I was in college. So really, it was in a lot of ways, it was the beginning of my photography. So it was just in DSi. Yeah, come to think of it, in a lot of ways, it really turned my life around. I mean, it was not only the system that gave my Nintendo DS games a new breath of life, because it was a new Nintendo DS system at a time when I was kind of going through a funk and not playing games nearly as much. Part of it was because of peer pressure, because I had classmates that were like, "Ew, Nintendo PlayStation is so much better." But it was also the system that got me into photography and things like that. So yeah, just a really amazing system. Nick said, I want to travel to Canada sometime, obviously not during the health crisis, of course. I mean, and of course not. I don't even know if it's technically even possible to travel to Canada right now. But it's a really great place. I mean, I know one of the stereotypes of Canada is it's like America, but not like America at the same time. But yeah, I really like going to like a lot of the outdoorsy places in Canada, like the mountains. I even when I was in Alberta, we were in the snow for like a little bit. And kind of a sad story is that I can't reach right now, is that I lost a Piplup plush when I was in Alberta and I was crying. Oh boy, I remember my cousin gave me this look like, dude, this is uncomfortable. But yeah, it was sad. I really liked my Piplup plush, and I remember I had to get a new one when I came back to the States. I remember we thought about, oh, should we go into Walmart when we were in Canada? But since we were with a tour group that was on a kind of tight schedule, we didn't really have time to do that. But yeah, I would highly recommend going to Canada. It's a really great place. I was actually there just before, like, the September before the 2010 Vancouver Winter Olympics, and we wanted to buy. I really like the mascots of the Vancouver Olympics, and this is one. I have all four of them. This is one. This sea bear named Miga. She can turn into. If you've seen, there's a cartoon with the mascots. She can turn into a orca, a killer whale. She's kind of a cute character. My sister likes to pretend that she really hates me sometimes and likes to bop me on the head like this. But yeah, really great. I hope one of these days I do get a chance to go visit places like Montreal, because I started learning a bit about French Canada, learning about the politics and parts of it, and even Quebec City. Like Quebec City, its parliament and really famous hotel, they look really beautiful in photos. I heard Quebec City is like is very European inspired architecture. I would like to visit that place someday. Nick said, I haven't seen that cartoon, but I gotta check it out. Yeah, just look up Vancouver 2010 mascots on YouTube. It's a really cute cartoon. And you also said, bruh, same. In middle school, people judged me for playing Pokemon. Yeah, I don't know. It's so weird, at least for me. I don't know if this is the case for a lot of people, but middle school was like the one time in my life where, like, if you played Nintendo, you were considered really kiddie. It's weird because, like, in elementary school, we liked Nintendo as kids, but when I got to high school, I had classmates that, like, started getting back into Nintendo and buying, like, Nintendo 3DS systems, myself included. I think part of it is like the nostalgia factor, and we also started to understand these games a lot more from like more of an artist's perspective or more from a developer's perspective. Like that was what got me really into playing the Earthbound games, for instance, because I really got into the story of especially Earthbound and Mother 3. Actually, Ness deserves to go back right here. And even in college, like I remember filming this video, excuse me, where I was filming coverage of the Nintendo Switch's launch. And I remember me and this film critic student, and you actually might know him, Ross Sev. He's been on my channel a couple times in the past. We brought our Switch systems into the newsroom once, and we started up 1-2-Switch, and like many of my editors like really started getting into 1-2-Switch and having fun. And even Ross's video game club, I remember one student in particular really liked the sneaky dice game. So it's just like, what's going on? It's like now we're all technically adults and we're back into Nintendo. But of course, that's really awesome. And I think for me, it kind of shows, like, as a kid, I used to think someday I'm going to grow out of, like, Disney and Nintendo. But now, as, like, somebody who's going to turn 24 in a couple of months, it's like, no, these will never leave me. In a sense, they're kind of part of me in a way. Although, the one thing I'm really glad I don't do these days anymore is I don't consider myself like the Nintendo fanboy I used to be when I was like in middle school, because I was basically super pro Nintendo in middle school, and I was saying, and one of the things, and this is part of why I don't usually like to talk about sales numbers, even though it's definitely a part of talking about the business side of Nintendo, is because back when I was a kid, I used to like pride myself on how, oh, look at the Wii, it's selling way more units individually than the Xbox 360 and the PS3. Like I used to get into BS like that. And when because when the Wii U was out, it was struggling compared to the PS4 and the Xbox One. I used to get really stressed out about, oh no, the Wii U is struggling. But of course, what really matters is Nintendo staying in business, and even if they don't sell like the most amount of consoles in a generation, if they can still, the most important thing is if they can still make a profit. So, yeah, I started learning about business stuff like that. Nick, what'd you say? TBH, I thought I'd grow out of Mario and Donkey Kong Country games, but I didn't. Likewise, I haven't grown out of playing like Mario, Yoshi, and Kirby games. Heck, last Christmas is I asked my cousin to get me Yoshi's Crafted World, and I got it. I'll be honest, I was kind of, I don't want to use the word disappointed, but I ended up not liking Yoshi's Crafted World as much because I didn't think the levels were nearly as well designed as something like Yoshi's Woolly World. But it's a good game. Nick, what'd you say? I was the exact same with sales numbers when I was younger. Yeah, I mean, I think part of it at least for me, was because I didn't understand and like the business back then. Like I was just barely getting into watching things like the G4 Icons show where they go into the history and business side of video games. So yeah, so back then I didn't really treat sales numbers as a business thing. I just thought that, oh, if my favorite console sells the most amount of units, then that would make me feel really good. And that must mean that my system was the best or something really ridiculous like that. Of course, now that's changed though, and I've even started playing games on like Sony consoles. Like over the years, I've gotten systems like the PSP and the PS4. Nick said, ironically, I used to not like Kingdom Hearts when I was younger, but now I like it. That's interesting. Was there any particular reason why you didn't like Kingdom Hearts? It's kind of interesting. It's kind of like the reverse of my sister because when my sis was a kid, she liked to play like Final Fantasy and Kingdom Hearts games, and nowadays she's kind of lost interest. Yeah. I don't know. So far, the only franchise I could think of where I didn't like as a kid, but I like now, I would probably say the closest would have been. Get this again. Earthbound, but even then, I don't think it doesn't seem like a fair comparison because I never even got the chance to play Earthbound when I was a kid. You know, Earthbound came out on the Super Nintendo. It wasn't released for the Wii's Virtual Console. It came out on Wii U and new 3DS later on, though. That was my first experience with that game. And when honestly, the couple things that got me into Earthbound was I started hearing, like when it came to Wii U, I started hearing from people that, oh, it's actually a really mature game. It gets really dark sometimes. I was like, it does. And the way it seemed, it was like it didn't even come off as, oh, it's dark by Nintendo standards. It sounded legitimately dark. And the thing that really like actually made me say, okay, I'm gonna go back and play Earthbound and Earthbound Begins because I tried playing it at first but didn't really get into it. But what really made me committed to it was when I saw the Angry Video Game Nerd episode. Are you sure we can use this cup?
Well, I don't want to bring up the broken one.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Thanks. Yeah, yeah. Need some water. My voice was killing me, but we're good. And what did you say, Nick? I used to think Kingdom Hearts was too hard of a game, but now it's somewhat keyword somewhat easy. Hmm. Do you think is it because you like gave it another chance, and as you played it more, you got better and better? And also, anybody else that's out there watching the stream, feel free to let me know your thoughts on today's Nintendo Direct Mini. And you also said I downloaded Earthbound on Wii U, but I haven't played it on 3DS. And you said Kingdom Hearts on critical mode, though. Yeah, how about no? Is that like the really difficult mode? And Nick said, yeah, I think I got better at Kingdom Hearts with practice. Yeah, I think that's one way to get really good. As punishing as it is, some games can be really tricky. I know with something like Doom, Man, I was not prepared for how tricky and even overwhelming that game can get at times when I because it kind of reminds me of my situation with Doom. With that game, I first thought, oh, Doom, it's the game where you shoot demons and it's really gory. Like, I thought it was just going to be like a really good time where I could basically do whatever I want. But it's actually it can be a really tricky game, especially for people like me who aren't exactly well versed with first person shooters. And what makes it hard is that with Doom, you have to really like get into the mayhem. Like really like you have to be the kind of person who's like, oh, look at those really crazy demons. There's so many. I want to attack them all. So for me, it was just like, oh my god. It's like for in those early days, I struggled with Doom. Part of it is because in the early levels, they give you like less powerful weapons, and part of it was just because I was not really good at things like aiming and things like that. But over time, I got better. My aim is still kind of shoddy and hit and miss, but I'd say it's better than when I first started. But other things that helped me along the way is one is I started playing the arcade mode, which is where you can play the stages, both stages you already beat, and even ones you haven't gotten to yet to see if you can get a high enough score. And the other thing too was I got into playing the multiplayer of Doom in both the Switch version and also the PlayStation Now version of Doom. And I also started to play it a bit more smarter, I guess you can say. Like especially when they started giving more weapons, I would try to conserve the ammo. So I would be like, okay, I used this weapon, but I should really switch to this so that I run out. Because if you run out of ammunition when you're playing Doom, you're in serious trouble. So yeah, you said that critical mode in Kingdom Hearts is the hardest available mode. I see. Yeah, so for me it's kind of a tricky lesson for me to learn because I'm a person who considers myself somebody who can be afraid of failure sometimes, but I'm trying to learn not to take it personally and learn that it's not a personal reflection of the person of who I am. And I think another thing too in Doom 2016, the other thing I started to utilize more of is power ups. Because, like, in some parts of the game, if you go running around, you can see glowy orbs that will, like, um, bring out more damage. And the other thing too is to also look out for, like, any explosive canisters. Because if you shoot the canisters in Doom, it can cause an explosion and it could take out a few enemies. So, once again, any viewers, if you have any more thoughts on today's Nintendo Direct Mini, be sure to let me know. Oh, about the Direct, I'm really hyped for Bioshock and Cat from Full Body on. So, yeah, that's the other game. I can't believe I didn't mention this earlier. Yeah, Catherine is coming to Nintendo Switch. I remember seeing the IGN review of that game a while back. It looks really tough. Yeah, it's that game about the character who's in a really complicated relationship and has those dream sequences where you have to figure out the puzzle. It's the kind of game where I feel like I would need somebody to sit down with and really teach me because I'm not really great at puzzle games myself. I mean, okay, I really like games like Tetris and even Bust a Move Universe for the 3DS, but for something really complicated like Catherine, I think it would take a lot for me to practice. But Bioshock is definitely something I would really give a chance. It looks interesting to me. I've seen gameplay before. Like I mentioned earlier in the stream, my sister used to play Bioshock Infinite, and we even used that game as one of the test games to see if it could run at 1080p on 30 frames a second. Nick said, I've never thought that Catherine Full Body would be ported to Switch, but I'm glad it's coming. And yeah, it's understandable, I think, because the Switch is selling really well. I guess Atlas is happy enough with the third-party games that have come to Switch to say, hey, let's bring this game over to the system. But I'm glad that it's coming to Switch because it's giving more choices to current Switch owners. And something else I think is really good that comes out of more third-party games coming to Switch is that at people like me, I look at like what's going on like the PS4, Xbox One, and PC, and I see a lot of games the Switch doesn't have, and I'm like, damn it, I wish the Switch would have this game. So to hear games like these, the ones that are coming to Switch are indeed coming, I think is really awesome. I would even like to see Bandai Namco bring that new Ace Combat game to Switch. I'm sure it could run it fine. Yeah, Nick said, I hope Persona 5 and Kingdom Hearts come to Switch at some point in the future. I hope so too. Maybe Kingdom Hearts 3. Persona 5, I've heard, wasn't Persona 5 released on both the PS3 and PS4, if my memory serves me correctly? So if that's the case, it should be able to run on Switch. And especially since Joker is a really popular Smash character. I know that my friend wanted me to play Persona 5 a while back, but I was kind of skeptical because the thing is, RPGs I am not very good at. So with games like Earthbound is like one that I really wanted to sit down and learn because I was really getting into the story. So I was like, okay, I'll give Earthbound a chance. And Nick said, yeah, Persona 5 was released on PS3 and PS4, so I think it would run on the Switch, unless there's a technical issue that I'm not aware of. But I would definitely like to see that game come to Switch. I think that would be one of the third-party games that would, in fact, sell really well on the system. Nick said, I own the PS4 version of Persona 5. What do you personally think of it, Nick? Nick said, by the way, do you like Final Fantasy or Kingdom Hearts? As I said earlier, I'm not really into those games because I'm not really sure if I'd be any good at them. I'm not against trying them, though. Oh, I remember I used to work at a marketing firm, and there was this guy there who was really into Final Fantasy VII. So I don't know. I technically do own or at least an older version of Final Fantasy VII because I have the PlayStation Classic system, and that has Final Fantasy VII. So I don't know. Maybe I'll give it a try one of these days. Nick said, it's a fun game, but Persona 5 is really long. Mm. When you say really long, do you mean like the gameplay is like the? I mean, I personally don't know how Persona 5 works. Do you mean like the battles are too long, or that the story is like longer than it needs to be? said Final Fantasy VII is pretty fun, at least in your opinion. See, so, yeah, because I know Final Fantasy VII is like one of the most renowned games on the original PlayStation, and that remake is coming out. You also said both the battles can become long and the story is fairly long. Mm. You said Persona 5 Royal hopefully improves things, though. I hope so. So, once again, anybody else watching, let me know your thoughts on the Nintendo Direct Mini that happened today. Really, me looking forward to talking about this more with you all. I think I'll keep the stream going for a little while longer, just in case. So no. So once again, and I wanted to do this discussion live since the Direct Mini was actually today. Maybe might even consider doing this maybe for future Nintendo Directs. I don't want to go back to those days though, where I would actually like watch the Direct from my iPad and just react. And I don't want to take the risk of doing a thing where I do a live reaction because I'm still kind of iffy about the way Nintendo handles copyright and things like that. Think I'll keep going for a few minutes more. And as I said in the beginning, things that really caught my eye about this Direct Mini were the third-party games and the updates that are coming to Nintendo's first-party games. If I could talk. Oh, and while I'm here, I will say that I'm hoping in the next couple weeks I'll have another chance to do another stream of New Horizons because I want to show you all where I'm currently at. Things could change in the next couple of weeks, and also because I know that the New Horizons stream we did was kind of awkward. If anything, I kind of wish we did the stream a couple hours later because my sis really started getting into the good stuff a couple hours after we first started playing. But I will say I do like this game's take on, and yeah, they really are going full on. They're really getting into this idea of when you get to this deserted island, literally everybody's on square one, and you have to do all these things. Things from making your own tools. I even found that, like, even when you get the much better tools, like the shovel and fishing pole, they can still break in time. So as of right now, I've got the museum, Nook's Cranny. I'm curious to see if Nook's Cranny can be expanded, though, because in prior Animal Crossing games, the ones that feature Nook's Cranny, they can be expanded to even bigger stores like Nook and Go, Nookway, and Nookingtons. So yeah, who knows? Maybe Nick, what'd you say? I'm switching between streams right now. TBH though, I'll use my a phone to watch another stream. Also, what game are you talking about? Are you talking about New Horizons? Yes, mainly because the direct briefly mentioned a couple updates that are coming to New Horizons, and it's also the most recent Nintendo game that I got myself into. So yeah, and interestingly enough, I actually had this conversation with my cousin where she was asking me, "Oh, what do you think of New Horizons?" Because she was kind of on the fence of getting that game. Something that kind of bothered her was I mentioned that the progression is a little slower because in New Horizons, in past Animal Crossing games, services like the museum and Nook Store were available from the get go, but in this game, you have to work for them. Um, so but yeah, but it's a case where I think the progression is a bit slower, but I think it's worth it. If anything, it does in in a virtual sense that you do sort of get that feeling of it takes a lot of work to turn a deserted island into a inhabitable island. And Nick, would you say, oh yeah, the new event in New Horizons looks like it will be fun. Yeah, the Easter event where they showed the character making like an Easter like wreath, I guess you could say, around the head and making like an arch out of Easter eggs. So very interested in trying that out because I've never played the Easter games in past Animal Crossing games. Also curious to see what Leaf will do for Earth Day. Yeah, Nick said, the thing that sort of bothers me is this idea of being on an island. It's a huge difference, though. Once I get the game, I'm sure I'll get used to it. And yeah, the really big thing this time is in past Animal Crossing games, especially the GameCube one, Wild World, and City Folk, you had to work for Tom Nook and do things like basically do things like plant flowers for him, meet villagers, and post like on the bulletin board and deliver stuff. But in this game, the tasks you have to do for him are even more extensive, like doing things like building a bridge and um, picking where villagers' houses should be, or even choosing, or even having to build furniture for each of the homes. And keep in mind, the furniture varies for each home. So one home may require a certain kind of like table, but the other may require a wardrobe literally made of pears you can collect on the island. So I highly recommend stocking up as much as possible in terms of getting as much wood, hardwood, softwood, even pears, ears, and iron nuggets and things like that. And one tricky thing, at least from my experience, is that when you start off in the tent, they don't give you much storage. Like basically the storage is whatever fits in your pockets and what's in your house. Like I remember when my friend came to my island, she was like, "Why is your house a mess?" Because I literally couldn't store anything away. When you get the house, you can actually store a lot of items away. I don't know where it goes. I guess it's kind of like the secret storeroom in New Leaf or something like that. So just keep that in mind. And yeah, it's definitely not the first time an Animal Crossing game was on an island per se, but this is the first, at least to my knowledge, where you're actually living on the island. Like things like New Leaf, you would go to this island to get to you catch bugs and fish that you can't get in your town, but in New Leaf, you're literally living there. So yeah, it's still a really good game overall. I really hope Nintendo doesn't put in microtransactions. I'm still really concerned about the ESRB rating. Um, I know New Horizons is a new Animal Crossing game, but I hope Nintendo doesn't abandon Pocket Camp. Yeah, I hope they don't. I'm sure they won't because they did say that they still have plans for Pocket Camp. I know that my sister plays Pocket Camp. I don't. I mainly prefer the main Animal Crossing games. And Nick said, "Yeah, living on the island sort of weirded me out at first." I mean, to me, it kind of was in keeping with what Nintendo has been doing with a lot of their first-party games lately, in that they were really wanted to go well, on a different take with their games, much like how they made Super Mario Odyssey and Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild into much more open world sorts of games. I think they really wanted to put a new spin on Animal Crossing and really change up how progression works and in things, because like in the prior games they definitely had their differences. Like Wild World was the one that introduced Brewster the coffee pigeon. City Folk was the first to have like a big city with all these different stores. But I would say New Horizons is probably one of the biggest departures the series has had. And it's weird. I'll be honest, I wasn't really sure if I would get into the customization, but honestly, I am so far. Maybe part of it is because it's still relatively early days for New Horizons, but yeah, I'm actually building bridges, putting trees on different parts of the island. I do like how in New Horizons, if you here's the thing, you can't just dig up a tree on its own. You actually have to eat fruit. The fruit in the game actually serves a kind of purpose. If you eat it, it makes your character stronger, and you can do things like dig up entire trees. You know, because in past games, if I wanted to move a fruit tree, I would have to shake the fruit down, put the fruit in my pocket, chop down the tree, dig up the stump, and go somewhere else. Whereas in New Horizons, as long as I eat at least one of the fruits, I could do that. And something that I should point out as somebody that covered Star vs. the Force of Evil is I do really like what Star fans have been doing in New Horizons. I saw there was like a screenshot where this one character kind of looks like Star and has outfits that looks like the various characters from the show. Like Eclipse's dress, the character was wearing pajamas that kind of look like Stars. Even saw that somebody made their character look like a tulip from Infinity Train. Yeah. Nick said, "I know you said you don't play Pocket Camp, but Pocket Camp gives us code for special items in New Horizons. Seems interesting. I'm probably gonna watch from the sidelines and see what my sister does because she has been playing Pocket Camp for a while, and I haven't really. I've mainly been playing Nintendo's games when it's been on their consoles, so I don't know. I mean, I'll probably check it out from her perspective. Yeah. Because when I did my prior Animal Crossing videos, if I needed to take notes from Pocket Camp, I asked my sister how things like Pocket Camp works. You also said, oh yeah, the customization in Animal Crossing is awesome. And yeah, it's awesome. I think personally for me, I get more into things like the character interactions and finding all the bugs, fish fossils, and artwork I can. Because one of the things I always liked about Animal Crossing is that on certain days, a guest character will come. Like on some days, you'll get a character like Lyle, for instance. On some days, you may meet Red, for instance. And on some days, you'll meet Gracie, for instance. I know one of the more infamous things in the first Animal Crossing that I didn't really like as much as you had to wash Gracie's car and do it like perfectly. But I definitely like the customization mechanics in New Horizons, and I even started to do more customization in New Leaf. I still play my 3DS. It's way over there. I still play New Leaf quite a bit. I actually accumulated so much money in New Leaf that I was able to afford a couple expansions. So I added a secret storage room and a couple rooms to my house. I turned one of the rooms into a cafe, one of them into like a Nintendo room, and one even into a bathroom. So in a way, it's kind of helping me out with the other Animal Crossing games, because I didn't just want to like go around and fish for every single fish. Because the thing I learned about Animal Crossing is that if you just play the game and you're just in it to make as many bells as you can and fit and get all the creatures, it gets boring after a while. So I think for me, getting into the customization character interactions is part of what also makes the game fun. And you said, I like Pocket Camp as a game, but the microtransactions aren't good. Yeah, admittedly, I think that's part of what steered me away from Pocket Camp, is that I didn't want to get into the microtransactions themselves. Are the microtransactions only for like the really special items? Like that's what my sister told me. Cuz for me, if a game has microtransactions, if it's the cosmetic microtransactions where I don't need them, then I'll just be like, fine, okay, I'll play the game. That's how I've been approaching games like Mortal Kombat 11 and Wolfenstein Youngblood, for instance. But if it's like a game where it's like a what they call a pay-to-win game, where or you could spend a boatload of money to get like the fastest car or the most advanced weapon, then I'm like, no, I don't want to play the game then. Washing Gracie's car in Animal Crossing GameCube. I've never heard of that, but it sounds interesting. Yeah, there's on some days Gracie will come and you have to wash the car. And I didn't get the controls as a kid. I think the way it works is you have to like move the left stick a lot or something like that, and Gracie would get mad because I couldn't figure out the controls. So yeah, leave it to Animal Crossing to be the game that honestly has legitimate surprises. Even years down the line, I'd find things that I didn't know about years ago. And I really hope they don't do any. I hope they really if I really hope Nintendo doesn't put like any. If they are doing microtransactions, I hope they're not going to put like really crazy ones in. I know I talk about this way too much in my videos because I'm so concerned, especially because the ESRB rating mentions in-game purchases. I just hope they don't go the route of, oh, you want the gold shovel? Well, one of the ways you can get it is if you pay $5. Like if they do stupid stuff like that, I'm just like, no, I'm going back to the other customization features in New Horizons. Nick said, yeah, they're mainly for special items, though you can use leap tickets to speed up crafting. So yeah, it's kind of pay to win, but then again, most mobile games are pay to win. Yeah, I miss the days when mobile games were like Super Monkey Ball on the iPhone or games like that. It's so weird. I remember watching an Apple presentation from 2009. This was when I really started getting into Apple and learning about Steve Jobs and topics like that. And one of the features of the third version of the iPhone operating system was in-game purchases. Like they introduced this new feature where if you want to play additional levels in a game, for example, you could pay this amount of money. And back then, I mean, I was kind of tempted. Like I was thinking, oh, maybe my next iTunes card, I'll spend it on like getting levels. But then when I started learning about how some developers were taking microtransactions way too seriously. Part of it is because a huge chunk of their profit comes from microtransactions. I was like, no, I ain't touching that. I am not. So Nick said, I don't think New Horizons will have microtransactions, though I do hope there will be more free DLC updates like New Leaf had. And I hope that that's the direction Nintendo goes with New Horizons. And it's because I think it would be really awesome if they did free DLC updates. I just hope they don't do. This is a personal thing, but I hope they don't do the thing with Franklin where he's that scary guy on Thanksgiving. I mentioned earlier in the stream in the GameCube Animal Crossing, he's like hiding behind trees, and if you talk to him, he'll just he'll like scream at your character. His dialogue will have like weird punctuation and be in like really giant text. So it's just, please Nintendo, don't do that. Or actually, with free DLC updates, yes, please do that. But it's like, hey, don't make Franklin into the scary character he was in the GameCube Animal Crossing. And Nick said, I know, right? Remember when there were good mobile games for Angry Birds and, yeah, Super Monkey Ball? And you were like, I don't know who Franklin is, but dang. Yeah, again, GameCube Animal Crossing. I don't know if he behaves like that in the later iterations of Animal Crossing, but I still remember going up to him because I read up about how Thanksgiving works in Animal Crossing, and I would go up and I was like, and I would see this character, Franklin the turkey, and he would be like hiding behind trees like this. Like he would kind of sneak out behind branches, and I'm like, the heck? And I would go up to him, and yeah, he would just like start talking like kind of like screaming at me. It's just like, geez. I mean, in a previous stream, my friend Patrick thought that maybe the reason he hides behind trees is because he doesn't want to get like cooked for Thanksgiving dinner. So maybe that's why he acts kind of strange on Thanksgiving, but I don't know. So yeah, really hoping for updates. And by the way, and Nick said, I love Jack on the Halloween event in Animal Crossing. The only time I encountered Jack, again, probably because I didn't play Animal Crossing games on Halloween that much, was in the GameCube Animal Crossing. Everybody would dress up as Jack. So everybody would have the pumpkin head and would wear like a purple cloak, like sort of outfit. I think there was also, you can get candy on those days, and that was quite a lot of fun. And you also said, LOL, that would make sense. Franklin doesn't want to get eaten. So maybe that was the kind of joke behind why he acts so, like, why he hides behind trees and why he speaks and, like, I mean, I don't think all his dialogue was in, like, all caps. It wasn't like that most of the time. It's just kind of a jarring introduction. It's kind of like if one day you come up to your friend and your friend was just like, like all of a sudden he or she would just like jump and like start speaking in like a very exaggerated tone. It's just like, calm down. I just said hi. But yeah, I would like to see like maybe other characters like Jingle come back on Christmas. Or maybe even building the snow characters on Christmas. Will Bingo make a return? I'm also hoping these DLC updates And Nick is like, were you scared of Rossetti? Oh man, I mean, I wasn't scared of Rossetti, just more annoyed by Rossetti. Mainly just because he would make such a big deal over like forgetting to save, and he would just like scream at you as if like you said something bad about like his brother or something, like calm down, and he would just be like this. It's just like, you forgot to save, you have to save your game. So it's just like, to me, he just kind of came off as more annoying than scary, if I'm being honest. Probably one of the most vexing things Rossetti made me do in the GameCube Animal Crossing would be sometimes if he comes up, he'll be like, you must repeat this exact sentence. And I would type the sentence word for word, and he would be like, no, that's not good enough. You have to try again. And I would try it again, and I can't figure it out. So the only way I could figure that out is to literally hit the reset button. Yes, I would have to meet Rossetti again, but this time he would just either make me do something different, or he would just give me his speech. So I don't know. I think some people like Rossetti or okay with them. I've heard that like some kids were like legitimately scared of Rossetti, which I could understand because Rossetti, when he's really mad, he has like a really like scary face. He's so, I guess it makes sense. It does seem like Nintendo has scaled him back though, because in New Leaf, I heard apparently he's an optional character. He'll only come up if the mayor sets up like the Reset Surveillance Center. Maybe because my sister wanted to piss me off because she was the mayor in New Leaf, but I've come across him in New Leaf before. And even in City Folk, I think there was one time he just came up just to warn me, hey, save your game. So my character would come out of the house, and then Rossetti would pop up, and I'm like, oh god, what do you want? So, but it does seem like they scaled back Rossetti, and now he's the I think he's implied to be the rescue character in New Horizons. Like if you get lost, but even then, whoever the rescue character is not a very nice person because you just get plopped back down to your house, and I'm like, what did you do? Did you just drop me down from a helicopter? I hope my character's like spinal cord isn't broken. And yeah, Nick said you don't have to build the Reset Surveillance Center, but I did. Yeah, I don't know why my sister brought it back. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. Seti just came off, like, to me, he came off as more annoying than scary. Might be a different story for other people, though. I will say one of the funnier scenes with Rossetti in New Leaf is that if you can go to his headquarters late at night. It's like a manhole cover near the train station. If you go there, sometimes he'll be like sitting in like this, I don't know what, this mechanical seat. If you press the A button on the machine he's next to and say the word scramble, well, it will activate this machine, kind of like a false alarm. And he's like, what did you do? You activated this machine. And it'll like send him out. I thought that was really funny. I posted footage of that in my Instagram story a couple days ago. I just think it's funny. It's kind of like it's like an opportunity for Rossetti haters to get their vengeance on him. I remember last night I was playing New Leaf. This time I didn't get the option to use the mechanical seat. This time I just went in there. Rossetti was near his toilet, and he was like, dude, I really need to go. And I wouldn't let him go. I just like talked to him several times. He like started to repeat himself after a couple attempts, so I was just like, oh, okay. Not that I would expect Rossetti to have like diarrhea right then and there. I don't think Nintendo would do that. Although I guess Although I guess Nintendo, although this is still really crude, they could like go to black and they would just make like shit sounds where it's just like or something like that. So, but no, you don't get. I don't think you get to see him like Oh, I really want to see him like accidentally take a dump. So yeah, I just left. You like to imitate Rossetti. I guess that's just how I vent my frustration with my Rossetti encounters through the years. Because, like, I've been playing Animal Crossing since I was a kid, like, since the early 2000s. So, like, this character has like, gotten on my nerves for years. Years. What'd you say? In which Animal Crossing game can you type in the word scramble? Like, it's not that you type the word, you literally, like, hold the A button when you get close to this machine, and you literally verbally say the word scramble, like, into your 3DS microphone. And that's what will activate the reset surveillance center and make Rossetti, like, go, whoa, what are you doing? This is a false alarm. And even then, I don't think I do like the best job imitating Rossetti because Rossetti in the North American version doesn't he talk in like a sort of New Jersey kind of way, at least from the way they write his dialogue? I just feel like I'm just like imitating his anger rather than accurately depicting how he talks. Not that I could do a good job with that, but it's fun to bring him up. Brings back good memories. So yeah, anybody else with anything to say on the Nintendo Direct Mini? And once again, to reiterate, the intro of the Nintendo Direct even straight up says, due to the coronavirus, the release dates might get um are subject to change. So I think that's something to keep in mind. The games that were released today, like Panzer Dragoon and the Bravely Default 2 demo, are still on track. So those are definitely available at the Nintendo Wii shop. If I'm gonna make game purchases in the near future, it's probably gonna have to be through digital, which I don't mind. Like, I'm personally neutral when it comes to the digital versus physical debate. If it's like a game of a franchise that's like really treasured or something I really, really, really want, then I go purchase a physical copy. But I personally don't mind getting some of my games digitally. Like, I have New Horizons as a digital copy, Mortal Kombat 11, Wolfenstein 2, and Doom 2016 are all digital copies on my Switch system. For me, it's just a matter of just, if there's an option to play it, then I'll play it. And Nick said, I don't think Rossetti is in Pocket Camp, but I could be wrong. Yeah, I don't know myself. Maybe if my sister comes by again, I could ask her. Nick said, I'm probably going to get the digital version of New Horizons. At this point, especially with the pandemic, it's probably the best option to get New Horizons. Just be sure you have enough storage either on your Switch internally or with a micro SD card. I personally, my Switch case has a 16, 64, and two 128 gigabyte cards, so I think I'll be good for a while. I do wish the Switch came with they at least gave like a 64 gigabyte option though. Thing is, the games, they're not like the 100 gigabyte download games. Like, I haven't come across a Switch game that was literally that big, but they're still really sizable games. Like, the Nintendo games generally are modest size, like maybe 5-10 gigabytes. I can double check. Oh, Pen? Is Rossetti in Pocket Camp?
I don't remember. I haven't played it in a while.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no. So I don't personally know myself if Rossetti is in Pocket Camp. Where manage software? Oh, okay. So Mortal Kombat 11 is at 6.5 gigabytes. Animal Crossing New Horizons is at 6.5 gigabytes. Smash Ultimate is at 2.1, and Kirby Star Allies is at 1 gigabyte. So yeah. And Nick said you'll join the Discord in a few minutes. Anybody else watching, feel free to join the Discord. When I start getting more people to come on there, I'll probably post things like video announcements there on Discord. And Nick said, "Oh, I see. I'll have to delete some games off my Switch, but I don't mind doing that." Take advantage of the archive feature. There's an option in the Switch settings where you can archive your games where it won't delete like your save data, but it'll like delete the game itself. But you can always re-download the game and I think pick up where you left off. So maybe take advantage of the archive feature. And yeah, also Nintendo did say that with New Horizons doesn't support the save data cloud feature yet. They said that there's going to be some kind of feature for Switch Online subscribers down the line, so that'll probably come in a DLC update. I think they did that as a way to stop players from face palming because even then people are still you can still not that I'm like no I'm not gonna go out there and like tattletale on everybody that adjust the clock in New Horizons. I know some people will just want to make results go faster. I just prefer. I've always played the Animal Crossing games according to the clock that's like my Switch or Nintendo console anyway. Yeah, I know. 2.1 gigabytes for Smash Ultimate. That's even smaller than. Wait. Smash Ultimate. It's different because for that game, I have a physical copy, so maybe that's why. Let me actually check. What does the eShop say? How much free space you need for the digital version? So it's 2.1 gigabytes because I have the physical copy of that game. Still a lot of extra space for a physical copy, though. Oh yeah, Smash Ultimate requires the Nintendo eShop said 15.7 gigabytes. So that's for the digital version of that game. So for people who were planning to download Smash Ultimate for Switch, keep that in mind. Yeah, Nick said, same. I don't like time traveling in Animal Crossing, but I did use Action Replay on Wild World and use cheats on that game. The only time I did time travel, admittedly, was in Wild World because years back, it's the same reason as a lot of people. I just wanted to, advance and, I didn't want to wait. I still remember back then, my friend at the time was like, don't speed the clock up or else you're going to get like weeds in your town. If anything, I did some really stupid stuff in Wild World that I talked about in previous videos before, like chopping down all the trees just to see if anything would happen. Of course, replanted them. And yeah, my town had a whole bunch of weeds. I literally just recently started plucking them all up one by one. So after doing that, I was like, yeah, no, I don't want to speed up the clock. And then also, I consider myself kind of a dogmatic person. I generally don't like to do stuff like that. And Phoenix said, dude, you're right about the weeds. Yeah. Yeah, it's just, yeah, it was just such, yeah, it was such a mess because I was such a dumb kid back then. At least in New Horizons, you could actually sell all the weeds, as wrong as it sounds, for money, but you can also use them to build materials like the leaf umbrella. So I don't know. The cynical side of me is wondering maybe even I even nah, I don't know. I was about to say maybe he, they moved Save Data Cloud out as a way. No, that doesn't even make sense because as far as I know, you need a Nintendo Switch online subscription to use Save Data Cloud to begin with. So I'm not really sure what Nintendo's reasoning is for at first saying no Save Data Cloud for Animal Crossing New Horizons, and then saying, oh, we're gonna put in the game later at some point, at least in like a Animal Crossing specific sort of way. All right, so once again, this might even be the last call. But I really do enjoy talking to you all whenever I do these streams. So final call for any of your thoughts on the Nintendo Direct Mini that happened today. Next stream is probably going to be another Owl House discussion. Because I still have 6 more episodes, I think, to watch. And then I'll see where I go from there. I know I've got even more shows to catch up on, especially ones that I've done trailer reactions to. Hey, Ben, did Rossetti scare you when you were a kid?
A little bit. I didn't cry though, I don't think.
Oh, okay. Yeah, just asked my sister about Rossetti. In case you couldn't hear her, she said that Rossetti scared her a little bit, but not to the point where she was crying. So I think I'll go for a few more minutes. And I am pleasantly glad to hear I am glad to hear that a lot of my audience seems interested in the third-party games the Switch has been getting. Really hope it doesn't stop anytime soon. I definitely recommend at least the ones that I personally tried and owned, the ones I like. Oh yeah, something I did. Something else about New Horizons I found is that at least where I am in the game, KK does not come back on Saturday nights. Would be nice if he was like a DLC character. The most I've gotten is you can get like a radio that plays like all his songs at different points in the day. You can also create a stereo that also plays KK songs individually, much like the other Animal Crossing games, which you could buy at the that community center place, the one with Tom Nook. Really wish they would have went back to KK performing at Blathers Cafe. That's another thing. I really want to see Blathers come back. I really hope that Nintendo goes beyond having Nook's Cranny, the Able Sisters in the museum, though, because Animal Crossing has a huge cast of characters. And Nick, you said KK Slider is my favorite character. Yeah, me and my sis, we really like going to, like, in Wild World and what was the other one? City Folk. You can go to, like, the cafe at night and hear him perform. He's in New Leaf as well as a DJ, but I didn't really get into him, like, being a DJ. I know that my friend Patrick is also didn't really like that either. Which I'll give credit for Nintendo for trying something different. It's not that KK being a DJ is bad or anything like that. It's just not my cup of tea. So, all right. My nose there. Okay, so I think I'm gonna end it off here. It's been really good discussing with you all out there the Nintendo Direct Mini and even going beyond that. It's always fun whenever I get to go back and discuss my Nintendo memories from my childhood. I personally thought the Direct was alright. I liked the third-party announcements and some of the updates for first-party games. I didn't get a chance to talk about every single little thing because, again, not every game piqued my interest, and I wasn't realistically going to buy every single thing that was there. So every single game that was there. So if you have any further thoughts, you could let me know down below in the comments. It was nice talking to you, Nick and Alan. So it's been fun. So until next time, this has been Blood Moon Bobby. If you enjoyed the stream, subscribe to the channel and ring the bell to be notified for any future streams I do. So I'll see you later.